standing before you is a scientific researcher by profession and somebody who is a climate enthusiast, somebody who loves to protect the environment, somebody who loves nature very passionately. By uh, by the year 1993, I started loving nature. I know it, and I can remember exactly because I was somewhere around primary school, my first years in primary school. Okay, I'd like to know a little bit about you, just from one or two people before we go into the presentation. It's true that um, the founder of one has given me some picture about you people, but I'd like to hear from the horse's mouth. Who can tell me who are you? Who are those? Who are those who are here today? Right? I presented myself to you people now. You see my bio, right? Let me know a little bit about you people as a group. Okay? Can somebody opt for that? Remember, the cameras are on, and this is going to go really far, guys. So trust me, if it's in your own interest, if you're in the cameras. Yes, let me hear. Let's hear from you. Okay, thank you. Mhm.
My name is Sotala Eric, and I'm a recent graduate from high school. I had a degree in science. So actually, I'm a sick intern in entrepreneurship, business management, digital marketing, and also I'm a businessman in my own. So I own a small shop of electronics.
That's great.
I
Amazing.
aspire in many machine web and
Okay, please let's give him a hand. Let's give him a hand, please. Okay, you see, we have huge profiles here. That's some businessman, grand businessman, and he has ambitions in tech. Vous allez ici, n'est-ce pas? Tech Foundation, non? Tiens, ok, ça c'est bien, Tech Foundation. Ok, donc tu viens d'avoir ton bac, n'est-ce pas? Ça veut dire que tu ne connais pas les autres, tu ne connais personne dans cette salle? Hein?
yes,
D'accord. Mais je ne sais pas si, Monsieur Isachi, are they here as individuals or they are here as individuals here? That's amazing. Now, you guys are a group here. You're a group because I'm sure, is there a WhatsApp group for this?
yes, there is.
That's amazing. Yeah, there are going to be many opportunities that are coming up that we're going to be involving each and every one of you. So I think without much ado, I'll delve straight into the presentation. What is this? In case you're the remember, is there anybody here who's in the university already? How many of you are in the university? 70%. That's good. Is there anybody doing science? Anything related to science? How many of you? That's great. Which means you did science in the high school, right? Clap for yourselves now. That means that means there's some things that I will not be assuming that okay, I'm speaking like to primary school levels, you know. I'm speaking to people who already have, you know, a certain level of see. That means that during this presentation is going to be very interactive. Are we together? Remember, nobody knows it all. Not even here, not even me speaking to you people. Don't mind my profile. I am still learning, and all of us will learn till the day we die, till the day we close our eyes. All right. So consider this an interactive session because the more you interact, the more your brain does what inscribes the new information in your brain, and it lasts forever. Okay. So I was just asking, what is this? This the Earth. Okay. How many colors can you find on the Earth, please? Very fast. How many colors do you see on this map of the Earth, on this picture of the Earth? How many colors? Okay. First color, who can name it? So let's see your hands up now. Yeah. Green, yes. Any other? Blue, that's amazing. Thank you. White. Yeah. Somebody sees another color. Yeah. Brown starts for what? The earth now. That's amazing. Clap for yourselves, guys. Give a clap for yourselves now. There is something about self-appreciation, right? It helps you to do what? It motivates you to keep going. Are we together? So sometimes when you do something that is good, when you achieve something, a small milestone in your life, sit down, eat some soya, eat something nice, take a nice drink, appreciate yourself. All right? Because it tells you that okay, I've achieved something. Now it's time to go toward another level. Are we together? Okay. Can everybody see from here? See, I'll admonish each and every one of you. I am seeing empty spaces here, right? I would rather you move ahead. This session is going to be very interactive, and I need people to follow up very keenly what I have to present. because this is the easiest way of understanding what climate change is all about. Okay, do you hear what I'm saying? So please, there are these empty seats here. We're not waiting for any other VIP. Are we together? Occupy them. It's for you. Except Mr. Ngano can tell us otherwise. All right, guys, come closer because I'm going to be having some demonstrations. Say that once you understand them and you have a picture in your head, you can answer climate change anywhere like an expert. Are we together? All right. So those of you who are not scientists, don't bother. Right? I'm going to try my best as much as possible to break it down as much as, in fact, to the best of my ability. Now, the topic of my presentation is, I call it our presentation because we're presenting it together. It's a very few slides presentation. Okay, so it's just what we call the basics, which is going to now help you to understand, higher concepts of what climate, weather, and all of that is all about. So this is the content of what I'm going to be presenting. It looks long, but it's a very short presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, these are some questions for reflection, right? Have you ever wondered where the smoke of a car is going to, right? Or the smoke of anything you've seen? Have you ever seen smoke going up? Have you ever wondered where it is going to? Some people think it disappears, but it doesn't. That's the interesting part. It doesn't. It goes somewhere and it causes something. Okay? Have you ever tried to know why in the village most of the people now use fertilizers? When I was growing up, it was something that was like an abstract concept, as in something you don't see, you only hear, right? Fertilizers in fact, fertilizers were very scarce when I was growing up. I'm talking about the 90s up to the 2000s. Fertilizers were very scarce. Les fertilisants non francophones, n'est-ce pas? C'était très rare quand moi je grandissais. It was not something that was easy to see. Because what? The soils were very fertile in the villages. My mothers, the fathers, they were farming doing their farming with just the soil. You understand? All they do is what? They do slash and burner, or when they clear the grass, or the crops that they've harvested, they just put it in the furrows, right? It does what? It decays now. It decays now. It becomes compost, and then it re-fertilizes the soil. So it was a purely natural, what we call a biosystem of production. That's how those people were eating and living long. They were living strong because if c'est ce qu'on appelle manger bio, they were eating natural food with the natural ingredients, no fertilizers. You will see the reason why fertilizers are not good very shortly. Okay. So have you ever tried to know why there are too many floods recently? Have you noticed that? Guys, there are too many floods. At first, when you hear about a flood, it was strange. How? What happened? But now, nearly every rainy season, you see what? Floods. If you hear your own, there are floods in some quarters, like Hawaii and the rest. There are floods everywhere. Like I think last year or year before last, there were floods around Post. Okay. Now, in the whole of the southern part of America, I think from the center right down, you can imagine the map of America is a very large country. But the whole southern part has serious hurricanes right now, not just floods, hurricanes. I mean hurricanes as in it is horrifying, it's terrifying. You see water coming up to the level of this roof, and people are inside struggling to look for their way out. That's how bad a hurricane is. And it's coming at the same time with very harsh winds. So it is taking off your roof, it is taking off the door, taking off the glass. It is dangerous. And those are all consequences of climate change. Are we together? Now, I'm taking you somewhere. I want you to watch closely. Right? Please, next slide, please. Anyway, just go back, just one step back. So the main objective of this session, right, is to do what? Is to facilitate your understanding of weather and climate, and then climate change and climate justice. I'm just here to facilitate. All right? So it's just a few steps, something that will enable you to understand what this whole concept about. It looks abstract for those of you who have maybe not heard about it, really like in details in science. But it is something that is affecting all of us. And that is the reason why we are trying as much as possible to bring in everybody on board. Because everybody has a role to do what? To play. Okay, so nice, thank you. Now, one thing, when I was coming here, the rains heard me. That's why I came a few minutes late, right? I was held back by the rains. But guess what? When I left my house this morning, I was so sure that I'll be here at exactly 3 o'clock. Ask me how. Ask me how. How? Because by the time I was leaving my house in the morning, it was sunny. You get the point? It was sunny in the morning, as in il faisait soleil. Jusqu'à c'était vraiment chaud. Vrai ou faux? Surtout dans la zone centrale de Yaoundé. It was really hot because the sun was out. But by the time it was getting towards 1:30 towards 2, the weather started doing what? Started changing now. I'm taking you somewhere. I need you to follow me. Can you see this? You see this? Okay, if you can see this from here, what does this look like? Thank you. What does this look like? It's a symbolism here. What does this look like? Thank you. How about this? That's great. How about this? Okay. How about this? Showers. Who knows the difference between rain and showers? Just um, by the way, who knows the difference between rain and showers? Showers is that small kind of rain that is just, dropping, drizzling, right? It's like drizzling. Sometimes you even see showers and then you see the sun. The sun is actually up and you see you see some raindrops, right? That one is showers. It's more like drizzling. So it's different from rain. Rain is when it's really raining. Okay. So now, in simple terms, these are what we call characteristics of weather. Are we together? The things that describe are the things that are used to describe weather. Okay. Il faisait soleil, la pluie tombait, il y avait la neige. Those descriptions, you understand? Those are the things that make that characterize what we call weather. Now, what is weather? In French, how do you call weather? Hmm? I prefer la météo. La météo because la météo is what? More short term now. La météo d'hier, la météo d'aujourd'hui, la météo de demain, la météo d'après-demain. Right? Because it is a matter of one day. Take note, I'm taking you somewhere, I need you to follow. You have a question? Okay. So the material is short term because it lasts only during one day, right? But the climat, like we call it in French, in English we call it climate. It is what? Long term. What do I mean? Let me come. Let's finish, please. Anyway, before we get to that place, right? Let me ask you, this is just a small instruction. Describe the weather that you have observed for the past 5 days. I'll not bother you about the past 5 days. Just give me about the weather of yesterday. La météo d'hier, tu peux me dire ce qu'il a observé, disons, pendant entre 8 heures et 16 heures. Qu'est-ce que tu as observé? Il faisait quoi? Comme on disait tantôt là. Qu'est-ce qu'il faisait? Le matin, bon, le matin, l'après-midi et puis le soir. Qu'est-ce qu'il faisait? Il faisait soleil à quelle heure? De 9 à 15 heures. Ça, c'est bien. Et puis, vers 15 heures, après 15 heures, il faisait quoi? Un peu beau temps. Voilà. Anglophone, do you understand that? What did he just say?
From the morning till about before the time, yes, there
It's about
was
3 p.m.
sun.
Yeah. And then after which it was Botang. Botang as in the weather was fair, right? It was not, there was no sun and it was not raining. Okay, that's the weather that everybody likes now, right? That's why in French they call it the Botang, as in the weather is fair, the weather is good. Okay. Now, can you use that to describe the weather, to say that okay, that has been the weather of Cameroon for the last 2 years? Can you? Why can't you do that? Can someone, because see, if you answer that, then you have answered the next 2 or 3 slides that I have to present to you. Why can't you say that the weather of Cameroon was like this for the last 2 years? Why can't you? Because just clap for yourselves. A loud clap, a louder clap. So as it is now, you can start teaching now. You can start teaching climate because you've understood a major concept. Next slide, please. That takes me to what? Weather and climate. You have basically answered the question, right? Someone should help us read out what weather is there. Keep on that room, yes? Okay. The next one down. Mm-hmm. 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 Exactly. All right. Those are the main factors that do what? That determine the weather. Are we together? So take note of these words. Short term. Take note. Because very soon your younger ones will start coming to you, or even your classmates, to ask you questions about, okay, now that you've done some, at least you have some knowledge about this. They'll be asking you questions. What is weather? What are the things that determine or define weather? Right? Take note of these terms. Short term, right? Atmospheric conditions, those are the keywords. And then in a given area, are we together? In a given area. Do you know that in Yaoundé here we don't have the same climate? I mean in Yaoundé, just in Yaoundé. In other words, somebody who is for example in a manner, right now you cannot say for sure whether it is raining there or there is sun there. True or false? You see what we are saying? So weather is very short term because it's very transitional. It changes very fast. Are we together? Those are the main. That's why I'm telling people to take note of those three main words. Those are the things that characterize weather. It's very short term. Is in a very small place, what we call a small area. That's the second thing. And then it ranges from a few hours to a few days. That's why you can say la météo d'hier, la météo d'aujourd'hui, la météo de demain, la prédiction de la météo d'après-demain. All right? It ranges only in a few hours. It changes. That's why they say it ranges because it changes in a very short time. And it can take a few hours to a few days. But now, let somebody read about that for climate. Who help us? I don't see guys, what did I tell you from the beginning? I like an interactive class. Are we together? I don't want to be seeing the same faces. Remember, I told you the more you speak, the more you write, the more it is inscribed in your head. That's the best form of learning, writing down. Are we together? Somebody should read that of climate. What is climate? Yes? Okay. Yes. In a word, can everybody read that aloud? One more time. Take note of something. They used a word to define another word. What is here that you notice that they took from another place that you just saw? What am I trying to say? They used weather to define what? Why? Because you are going to see the same conditions to describe what? Climate. You are going to see temperature, la température. Quand il faisait soleil, n'est-ce pas? Il fait automatiquement chaud, non? N'est-ce pas? When it is sunny, the temperatures automatically go up. All right. Now, humidity has to do with the water content of the atmosphere. N'est-ce pas? How much water is found in the atmosphere is called humidity. I'm sure you guys have already seen this in geography. Then you have atmospheric pressure. All right? Atmospheric pressure is the pressure that is exerted on the earth by the atmosphere. Okay? Then you have rainfall. Of course, the one that we have just seen a few minutes ago now. Then we have wind. Those are the main things the main factors that characterize weather. Now, there are the same things that we have used to define weather that we're using to define climate. Now, what is the main difference between weather and climate from what you're seeing there? Who can tell us? Yes? Please give her a hand. Did you hear what she said? That climate is, that is the main difference. So basically, the same factors that we use to describe the weather are the same factors that we use to describe climate. The only difference is that for climate, you cannot say the climate or you cannot say the weather of Cameroon for the past few years is this. No. You can say the climate of Cameroon has been like this for the past 2 years, for the past 1 year, for the past 3 years, for the past 5 years, for the past 10 years, for the past whatever. Why? Because it is an average. Are we together? Are we together? How do you think prediction of weather is done? Who can tell us how the prediction of weather? On parle de la météo, n'est-ce pas? Comment vous pensez que la prédiction de la météo est faite? Yes?
Let's say is using the last condition, previous weather. sensor.
Give him a hand, please. Do you hear what he said? Right? They use old data, les anciennes informations, n'est-ce pas? They use old data of what? Climate to predict that of the future. How do they do that? They observe what we call a trend. Are we together? So, for example, let's take rainfall. Like one of the factors now. Let's take rainfall. Let's say rainfall in the year 2000 and no, the year 1990 was 1,000 millimeters cubed. This is what 1990 now. So by the year 2000, let's say like 2 years after, rainfall it was 1,500 millimeters cubed. And then in the year 2010, rainfall was say 1,300 millimeters cubed. Those math students, please do us a quick average of these three. Average, le moyen. Le moyen ou bien c'est le moyen. Puis même, je m'en fous. What's the average between those three? Average, use your. Eh? What's the total? This is 1,000, 2,000, 2,500, 3,500, 3,800 divided by 3. You guys are science students now. Come on. Eh? Eh?
1,266.
1,200 and. Okay, so the average is 1,200 and. Okay, millimeters cube. What does that tell you? It's very simple now. Have you seen a simple math? It means that if you calculate this time period, this is how many years? This is the range of how many years? 20 years now. So they can tell you confidently that, okay, because in Cameroon, the average rainfall has been this millimeters cube, right? And from March to April, because remember their census, they measure every month. Are we together? They measure every single day. So if you want to know the rainfall in a particular place on a particular day, they just go to what? To the gauge now. They have what we call weather stations, right? They have all those instruments there. So they can tell you. So how do they get it? It's from those averages, those former, the old information that they have been receiving, that they can tell you that, okay, for the past 10 years, this has been the trend, right? Rainfall has been like this, and then the next year it goes up like this, then the next year it comes down like this, they observe the trend, and now they can trace a line to tell you that this is the average. Okay, so therefore, it is very likely that next year, everything being equal, this will likely be the amount of rainfall, this will likely be the amount of wind, this will likely be the amount of pressure, the amount of sunshine. They can tell you those things very easily. Except, of course, because it is never perfect now. Ça ne peut jamais être parfait. There are what we call predictions that have, that have been determined from the former judgmental values. Are we together? Next slide, please. So I was going to show you a video. If we have time, we'll come to that video. Okay? It's just about the 5 minutes video or something. We'll come back to it. Next slide. Now, the definition of climate change. Let somebody read that for us. With that, do you need anybody to define what climate change is to you again? Do you need anybody to explain climate change to you again? What does it mean? Okay, let's just take those two words. What is climate? Please say louder. Over a very long period of time. But remember, that place is what? It's usually what? A vast region. When we say region, we're not talking about a region in one country. Yes, it could be a region in the country, but we're mostly talking about regions like Central Africa, right? It could be the region of Central Africa, it could be the region of Southern Africa, it could be the region of West. It's talking about vast areas of land. Okay? All right? Now, if that climate changes, can somebody tell us what that simply means in simple, basic English? No, I mean use different words to explain that. Uh, it's no longer the same, right? When they say it's no longer the same, does it mean that it's not changing a bit? I really need I really need you guys to understand this. Yes, please give him a mighty hand. That is what I wanted you guys to catch. The change in the trends, because the way the maker created nature or made nature. Some of you might be atheists, some of you might not be Christians, but there is nothing that exists that was not made, right? Was this made? Let's just how I take paper again. Was this made by somebody? So I find it funny when somebody says that these things that we are seeing was not made. Something is wrong with your reasoning. Okay. Anyway, that's not the point. What I'm trying to say is that what changes is what? The trend. The problem is at the level of what? The change in the trend. You know, when something is doing like this, you know, okay, bon, ça peut augmenter un peu, ça peut monter un peu, ça peut descendre un peu. Mais quand ça commence à faire comme ça, tu sens qu'il y a quelque chose qui ne va pas, n'est-ce pas? That's the problem. That's the reason why we assembled you guys here today. That's just all. The trend has what? Changed drastically. Okay? So, can you read that out? Can somebody read this out? Then we go to the next slide. Yes?
The United Nations
Yes.
the United Nations Convention on Climate Change says damaging the change in climate, the area of inability to human
Mm-hmm.
and the treatment or emission of greenhouse gases, which are naturally found in the atmosphere like CO2 carbon dioxide, can also be understood as a significant environmental change in the climate of the Earth, including temperature, rainfall, wind.
Okay, do you notice that? Thank you. Do you notice the word significant? That significant now is what? That change of trend. You understand? That's just it. All right. So now, if you know this board is not that dark. This one is in both human activities. This is what I want you to take note of. Human activities, les activités humaines. C'est ça le problème. That's just all. So if you are the cause of the problem, then you should be the one to fix the problem. Unfortunately, humans are the only species on earth that have the ability to do what? Make changes. What do I mean? I mean significant changes. I mean intellectual changes. Are we together? I mean conscious changes. Because if you take humans out of nature, what will happen? If you, si on enlève les humains de la Terre, qu'est-ce qui va se passer avec la nature? Hein? Voilà. Nature will do what? It will restabilize itself. He is the one who is in charge of doing what? Regulating the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So when you come and cut this guy down, what are you doing? Automatically. That is the problem. So when they're saying he stop cutting down trees, some people say it's politics. I say no, I don't blame. Some people don't blame me because it's what? Ignorance. They don't know what they're talking about. It is reality. We're talking about nature here, something that you're living with. It is a fact. The only problem is that you don't know the details about it. But it's a fact. This is what he does. If you cut these guys down, you go, okay, on va planter, je sais pas, on va avoir une plantation de 5 hectares, 10 hectares, 15 hectares. People are planting those things. But guess what? You need to do what? Cut down many, many trees to have that. You have to bring down many trees. That's the problem. Okay, next slide, please. The agricultural sector, right? Through intensive agriculture and the use of chemical fertilizers, which contain, are you seeing those guys there? Are we together? Those gases contain what? Chemical fertilizers. They contain these things, fluorocarbons, and especially this one, hydrogen hexafluoride, this thing here, and other greenhouse gases. So on this picture, wait, I don't know if it's clear enough. It's unfortunate you cannot see. There's a plane in this picture, that picture up there. There's a plane going up, flying and doing what? Spraying chemicals on a very vast plantation. Okay, spraying chemicals to do what? To fertilize the soil. Sometimes those fertilizers, those sprays up are actually to do what? Are herbicides to kill particular plants. There's no problem with that, except that they contain these things that do what? Once those things are dropped on the atmosphere, what happens is that what? Once they are heated by sun or by the rising temperature of the day, what happens is that they evaporate. And when they evaporate, they go straight to the atmosphere, and then they start causing all the havoc that we are seeing. That's the problem. Then now we have the livestock sector. Why the livestock sector? Because the livestock sector, particularly ruminants, especially ruminants like sheep, goats, cattle, horses, ruminants in general, the main byproduct of their ingestion is this gas called methane. Are we together? So even when you put this manure, when manure decomposes, right, it produces some small quantities of methane. That's what we say in the agricultural sector as a whole. They also contribute to what? Greenhouse gases. Okay. Then now you have the waste management sector. Of course, we're talking about those the manure and things like that. Next slide, please. So these are some of the consequences of climate change, right? I need just five. We're not going to read all of them. I need just five fast readers, right? We're just going to look at some examples. Okay. First one, please. First one. Yeah. Yes.
including increased waste
Mhm.
air pollution,
Okay. Okay, that's the first one. Second one. Motif. Hold on. Please read the second one, please. Can you see? You're not seeing. Between now and the year 2100, right, could run from 4.2 trillion dollars to as much as 43 trillion dollars from now to the year 2100 by estimation. Are we together? Do you want to dare convert that to franc CFA? Please don't dare. You will spoil your phone. Okay, next one, please. Infectious diseases. Thank you. Why? Why would climate change aggravate the spread of more than 200 infectious diseases? Yes? Floods, excess heat. Why? Heat is a very, very favorable factor for the multiplication of most microbes. That's what we're talking about. Next.
climate change could be irreversible by
Okay, could be irreversible by the year 2030. I remember the year 2024 when 2004 when Bia came out from the plane and he said that Shuki Vo Mamo, the rendezvous dans 20 ans. That was 2004. Yeah, what? 2024, right? That's 20 years. What am I trying to say? Time looks like it's very far when you are mentioning it, but you approach it very fast. Very fast. The years go like this. You're already 20 years after. So we're talking about 2030, right? And some people still act like it's still very near. No, it's no, sorry, it's like it's still very far. It's about 6 years from now. And guys, 6 years from now, some of us will still be seeing ourselves in this year only. Not too long from now, before we close our eyes and open them, 6 years have passed. That's how time flies. So what are we saying? 6 years from now, climate change could be irreversible if nothing is done. That's the essence of what we're saying there. That's point number what? 4. The last one, please.
presently greenhouse
Okay, that's very important. At an all-time high. We are talking about what? Trends. We're talking about trends at an all-time high. I've seen some after some hundreds or thousands of millions of years. At some point, this trend has now moved from this to what? Something too high. So we're living in a period where climate change is at an all-time high. Why? Because the climate naturally changes. The climate naturally changes because the trend does this naturally. It is not constant. So the problem now is it's an all-time high because it's going too high than normal, and which is causing all the consequences we're talking about. Okay? Someone should read this last one.
The world is currently losing 10,000 times the normal rate of biodiversity.
Can you read that again?
The world is currently losing 10,000 times the normal rate of biodiversity.
Can you imagine 10,000 times more than the normal rate of biodiversity loss? Remember, some organisms have naturally done what? Gone into extinction now, according to the law of natural selection in biology. Naturally, it happens like that. As in, because the trend is going up and coming down, at some point in the era of existence, the conditions of the atmosphere does not favor particular organisms to continue surviving. They do what? They go into extinction. It is all for the good of nature. But now, when you go to that extent where you're having the rate of extinction going to 10,000 times more than the normal rate, who is the main cause? Remember, if you take man out of the picture, the balance will be what? You'll be equal, you'll be constant, you'll be stable, you'll be doing this natural small change, and the trend will be consistent. But now the problem is man. The problem is us. Okay? That's what the problem. Now the next slide, please. Consequences of climate change. I don't know if you can see this. This is a terrible flood where water is at the level of what? The roofs of houses. This happened in Nigeria some few years ago. It happened last year. It still happened this year. The flood in Douala happened. I don't want to go, back in the years. The flood in Douala happened the year before last. It happened last year. It happened this year, and it will happen next year. It will happen the year after next. And the only difference is that the level is not the same. It's actually rising. The consequences are actually rising. I don't know. Those of you who watch news, what is happening in the far north now? No, the problem is not heat. The present floods most around Yagua and the Mayodana and stuff like those places like that. The floods are all time different. Floods have been taking place there. But guess what? This year, just between June and this October, Cameroon has had more than 300,000 people displaced because of floods. In the far north, that's the worst. In the southwest and in the littoral, then a few places in the northwest. I mean, just this one year, more than 300,000 people have been displaced because of floods. We don't want to talk about the financial damage. Okay? So it's something serious. That's why when you see in the quarter, you hear people saying that this thing is international politics. Just laugh and stay quiet because sometimes going too much to explain the details, you need that to come and sit like this, right? And get the explanation before they can understand that this is not politics, it's not hanky panky. All right. Next slide. Are you seeing this? This is in our country. It's not in space. I don't know. I really wish people could see these pictures clearly. This is drought. Places are dry. As in dry to the level where you look at somebody's skin and it's cracking. That's what we call drought. Right? Places are dry. Okay? Because of what? Extreme heat now. Extreme heat. Global warming. Okay. Can you see this? This is the earth now. In some places of the earth, like those places where the heat waves have more effects, like the desert belt, right? You will see the earth actually cracking up because of what? Dryness, lack of water, because of global warming. Okay. Now you see these are cattle. They are going around too long distances. Now you're having what we call the multiplication of farmer-grazer conflicts all over the world, especially in Africa. and other developing countries. Why? Because these guys have to go too far to get what? Crops, especially around the desert areas where you have the warming much is much higher there. You understand? I hope you understand what we're saying. Okay, any question so far? Let me pause there. We are just about 2 slides to finish. Any question so far? If you have any question or any comments or any clarification, remember I said this was going to be an interactive session, right? I don't know it all. You don't know it all. But if we put our heads together, right, we can come up with something awesome that will help to do what? To fix the problem. So any question? Yes?
My first question is that are there no gases or chemicals that can now break down the greenhouse gases that have been accumulated over all these years? Because we're seeing equations in chemistry where one thing can break the other. So why does something not happen like this? Why does it have to get this bad before?
Please give a hand for that question. It's still her first question, but let's try to answer it together now. Who can answer that question? Remember, her question is there no chemical or gas? Is that the question? That can help to do what? Break down these so-called greenhouse gas in the atmosphere so that they should stop warming the earth? Who can answer the question? We are not expect, well, see, we don't expect you to be a genius to answer. Just use your common sense, yes?
For me, I would say it is true that they use fire to fight fire, but in this case, I think using chemicals to fight chemicals might be just
Okay, that's reasonable. Thank you. Let's give him a hand for that. It makes sense. He's saying that if we have to use chemicals to fight chemicals, the result might end up being more dangerous, right? It might make sense in the atmosphere, but guess what? Somehow it will come and meet us down here because gases obey the law of diffusion. That's physics. They are not stable. They move, right? Depend on the temperature. If it's cold, they come down. If it's hot, they go up. If it's water, they go up. Are we together? Another attempt, please. Yes.
So if you try to break it down, I think the reaction that will come back,
You do what?
will come back. So depending on the condition, you try to break out that.
Yeah.
I think it's a natural reaction. Reversible reaction.
Reversible
It will
reaction.
come back.
Okay. That's what we call a postulation, right? And all postulations are correct until proven. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. Let's give him a clap for that. You forgot to mention one guy who's not making too much noise. Even though we used to make too much noise when I was in primary school and secondary school, we used to know about ozone. Ozone. Ozone is one of them here. We call him O3, right? Ozone is one of those natural blankets that do what? That prevents excess heat from the sun from doing what? Because guys, the sun is hot. Hmm. The scientists in the world have done everything possible to get how many million kilometers to the sun. They have not succeeded. That's when you know that there's somebody who has made this thing that you cannot understand, you cannot fathom his ways. You get the point? I don't want you to understand that. You don't need to understand what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that ozone naturally up here, this guy, he's meant to do what? Regulate the temperature that comes down to the earth to meet us here. So most of these things, most of these greenhouse gases, they also do what? They cause ozone depletion, as in they reduce the concentration of ozone in the atmosphere. So what does it do? It does two things at the same time. What does it do? It causes more heat to do what? To come down to the atmosphere. More heat comes down to the atmosphere. Then now, when more heat comes down, now it adds to what? The already existing global warming. You get the point? So that's why floods, heat waves, bushfires, all the consequences you can think of, multiplication of diseases and all of that have no end. They have no stopping anytime soon if we don't start acting very seriously. Are we together? Okay. So to answer your question, my dear, all those answers you gave were correct. You might want to solve a problem and cause another problem that has more consequences. Okay. That's why they're focusing now on two main things. Mitigation and are we together? For the with that, I can officially tell you that we have come to the end of our presentation. These are the two main solutions: mitigate and then adapt. Remember, right now, is it hot in here or it's cold? It's hot, right? Is this your normal temperature? This is not room temperature, so it cannot be normal to you, right? But guess what? Why are we still here? You have adapted. You're just not conscious of it, but you have adapted. Are we together? You have adapted. So there's a problem. The first thing you have to do in solving the problem is to do what? Tell yourself that okay, there's a problem. Acknowledge that there's a problem. That's where there's a problem. That the problem is that there's a problem, but we are refusing to acknowledge that there is a problem. That's the worst way of solving a problem. It's like you're sick and then you hide out. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? You don't want to acknowledge the fact that you are sick. Then how do you get healing? How do you get treatment? Because they give you the drugs sometimes just for what you've said. Okay? Because for what you're saying, they might diagnose something because they're using the symptoms. Are we together? So there's a problem. You have to first of all accept that there's a problem. So it's by accepting that now you can say, okay, now how can I solve this problem? That's what we call adaptation. So that's the first thing to do. Now the second thing is what? Mitigation. Mitigation. That's where we have the bone of contention, right? What do I mean? Mitigation. What does it mean to mitigate? First thing, to do what? To reduce. Reduce. What are we reducing? No, we have to do something so that the effect should do what? Reduce now. We cannot reduce the effects directly, no. We reduce the effects indirectly. So by reducing these guys here, what are we doing? We're reducing the effects. So this is what we call mitigation. Mitigation is what? Reducing the quantities of these toxic guys in the atmosphere as much as we can. Because they have seen that okay, no matter what they do, people will still want to use vehicles that somehow use petrol, somehow use gas. People will still want to use coal. Those are what we call fossil fuels, right? Those fuels that come from the earth's core. All right. So now what can we do since people somehow are still using it, and that somehow the quantities will still be going up in the atmosphere through other means. All right. Remember, fossil fuels are the major source of carbon dioxide and not the only source of carbon dioxide. You have even from the sea levels, from the seas. There are huge quantities of carbon dioxide coming from the seas. Remember, there are thousands and millions of organisms in the sea. So there are many sources, but the major one is what? Carbon dioxide from what? Human activities. Through fossil fuels, right? Fossil fuels. That's the major problem. That's why the major fight now is against what? Fossil fuels. They are the worst enemy to the natural stability of the earth. Are we together? So if you have understood this, my small page here, there is hardly anything that someone will say about climate change that you don't understand. That's a small, simple science there. Sometimes, so there are of course, there are some levels where they will sound like they are too difficult to understand, but this is the major thing that you need to understand. Are we together? That's the reason why, since we keep talking about humans, how can we talk about humans without assembling them to let them know that this is the problem, for them to acknowledge that there's a problem, so that we can look for a solution together. That's why F1 is assembling, or is it F1 is assembling people today. All right. That's how organizations come together. That's how associations come together. People start thinking, what can we do in our own small level? So that when you act locally, the effect is felt globally. Remember, whatever, if you plant one tree here, you don't know how much carbon dioxide, how much that tree is going to help to do what? reduced in the atmosphere. That's why they always say if every human planted one tree every year, in 10 years, this problem is going to at least by 30% be reduced. Just in a few years. But some people are here and then they still go back and do the same things. Plastics, the use of plastics. Some people are asking, what's the relationship between plastics and the environment? When a thing has come, they don't get it. But we understand, right? Let's take a simple example. Around our neighborhoods, when there is a blockage caused by plastic bottles, plastics, all sorts of papers and all of that, what happens when the rains come in their huge quantities through the gutters? What happens? Overflows. To where? They will start crying, oh, floaty, oh, government has not built the road, oh, government has not put the gutter, say, you're forgetting that is your plastics that you have. If that water came and had an easy passage, you guys won't affect the flood. That's the first thing. Second thing is the process of burning of no, not burning, of producing fossil fuels like petrol, kerosene, gas oil, all of that. One of the it goes through a very long process. I don't want to bother you guys with that. But one of the process is what? It is the production of plastic, the chemical that is used to make plastic. Are we together? Oh, I really want to avoid that science there. Okay, so what we're saying is that fossil fuel does not really produce this thing. At the same time, it produces that chemical that is used to make plastics. So the use of fossil fuels is causing too much havoc by the the production of plastics and the production of what? Carbon greenhouse gases as a whole. Are we together? So that's why we're trying as more. The main fight now is against fossil fuels. If you have understood that, please clap for yourself. So can we conclude that? Yes. I forgot about that. Sorry. Don't mind. I've been talking too much. You have a question too? All right. Yeah, we'll take all of them. No problem.
Okay.
Mr. Ngami, do you permit, please? The questions.
I'm not, they don't have to be asked like that.
All right. Please, do you take next slide? Let's see. Okay, next one again. Yeah, next one again. Okay, just leave it there for a while. Yeah.
My question is that we can barely the amount of water that evaporates the atmosphere.
Mhm.
When it wants to rain, it rains so heavily that it's like there's some water stored up there in one corner. So I want to understand how much time or what is the mechanism through which all this water evaporates for it to fall that some places go through flood because of rainfall. And if this amount of water can fall from the water in the atmosphere.
Where does water come from? What a question. She's asking, all this too much water that is causing the floods, where does it come from? Are there any geography students here? You want to answer that? Who wants to answer the question? Yes? Give me a hand, please. Give me a hand. Thank you so much. Yes? I hope you got that.
Yes.
Okay. Where's the problem? Yeah, please. Wait. Another mighty hand for him. You see what I was telling you is going to be an exchange. Everybody knows something about this thing, right? So just to add to what they were saying, right? Now you have mountains now, right? On mountains, if you go to the polar regions, that's what he was saying. You have ice what we call glaciers, right? Which are what accumulate. There are layers and layers of accumulated snow. Okay. Now we know when you remove ice from the fridge and you put in hot water, what happens to it? It dissolves, right? You get the point. That's just one of them. Now, when the temperature of the atmosphere increases, what happens to the waters in the seas and the oceans? Remember, the seas and the oceans, in fact, the water bodies make up 75% of the Earth's surface. However, if you're forgotten or if you don't know that 75% of the Earth's surface is made of what? Water. So land, all the countries and all the continents put together are 25% of the Earth's surface. So just imagine when the temperatures of the Earth, of the atmosphere increase. You are just imagine how many millions or God knows how many of water that's evaporated and sent into the atmosphere. You get the point? So the problem now is still boils down to that global warming caused by the greenhouse gases. Right? That's just water comes from the earth, from the beneath the earth, water comes from 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 human activities, you know. So yeah, any other question, please? Okay.
So just to ask you what you said, also human activities like water consumption, plastic, just mentioned, block the passage of water. So water is not where we supposed to go.
Exactly. Exactly. Blockages cause deviations in natural flow of water, right? So that will definitely be felt now in places where they shouldn't be. That's why the main focus is to do what? Build the drainage system. I always say this example of this country called the Pays-Bas, Holland, or they commonly call Netherlands. Who knows about Holland? Now, yeah, yes. I want somebody who has not spoken to tell us about a little bit about Holland. Okay, what is the geography of Holland? Right? Holland is the lowest point in the world. Holland is that country called Holland, the Pays-Bas. That's why they call it the Pays-Bas. It is the lowest. It is in the lowest point in the world. They are the lowest country. They have the lowest sea level in the world. Are we together? They have the lowest. In fact, they are the lowest. They are actually below sea level. You know what that means? It means that any small rise in the sea level, they are going. They are going to feel the Noah effect. You get the point? But they don't feel that in Holland. How do you think that happens? Eh? Guys, talk out now. Let's see your hand up. Let's talk out this thing. I told you I want the interaction. Let's hear from you. The two stars is a combination of things. Planting of trees, building of drainages, right? It's a whole of, it's something you do intentionally. You don't do it by politics. You carry out acts. Yeah, exactly. When we see organizations going out to do cleanup, people think it's just because bon ils ont un petit financement là. Those small actions help. They help. When you see people going out to plant trees, some of these trees were planted when this thing started, being spoken about. Otherwise, you see this whole place will just be tar because people want to do what? Just drive in easily and drive out easily. You get the point? We have put our human interest and financial, egoistic, self-centered, personal interest too much to the detriment of the earth and to the detriment of our natural harmony with nature. That's the problem. That's why your trading countries now stop producing fuel. They go there every year. And guess what? One of the founders of this thing of the COPs are the major oil companies. How do you put that together? So what are you trying to do? You're trying to protect their interests. Okay, you guys take a bit and eat. So that you stop, you don't just get it one morning and stop us because they have the power to do it. If every president in every country says, okay, no more production of, no more exploitation of fossil fuels in my country, it will end. So the best is to do what? Or they say an oil finger does not, you will definitely do what? Soil the others. Right? And if a mouth that is full cannot speak. That's about that. Any other question, please? Yes? Climate justice. Okay. Okay, any other question before that?
Yeah.
That's just You guys have already understood. You don't know that you've understood climate justice. Okay, here's your question.
Question was to talk about CFCs. So,
Chlorofluorocarbons.
carbon the plant will enter the plant, affect evaporate. So I'm not understanding how does it affect the soil. Like you said at first, it was never use fertilizer and it was you and it was everybody was saying. So I'm not understanding how it affect the plant.
Okay. I was showing a picture. You know, that picture was not clear because of the sun, right? I showed a picture of a plane flying in the air and doing what? Spraying a very vast, I don't know, very vast land, maybe hectares of land, of agricultural land now, with what? Fertilizer, right? That's what we call it's one of the modern agricultural practices now. That people don't stress people again to go and be spraying fertilizer and putting fertilizer under every plant. Where the farm is too big, they just use a plane to do what? Fly around and do what? And spray the either fertilizers or herbicides or fungicides and things like that. Okay, herbicides do what? They kill the plants that are not the plants that they want to grow on that land. The fungicides kill what? Things like fungi, those things that destroy plants, like leaves, they destroy leaves, they chop leaves off, call them fungicides. So most of those fertilizers have this thing. They are made up of chlorofluorocarbons. And then most of those herbicides and fungicides, because they are dangerous gases, they have this thing. Because they'll do what? They'll kill the plants and those fungus and those microbes now. Are you together? So now the problem is, this guy would have had no problem with the fight against climate change if it was not doing what? Causing global warming. Use whatever you want to use. But now the problem is that what you're using is doing what? It's causing a problem that is affecting everybody. Have you understood? Tu as compris? C'est ça le problème. Donc, c'est pas question de quelques plantes, non. Quand on utilise ce genre de produits chimiques, n'est-ce pas? Dans l'agriculture, peut-être dans les fertilisants ou bien dans les herbicides, n'est-ce pas? Ça crée quoi? Tout ça, c'est évaporé dans l'atmosphère. Par quoi? Par la chaleur. C'est beaucoup plus évaporé dans l'atmosphère et émis dans l'atmosphère par le chauffement climatique ou bien le chauffement atmosphérique. You get what I'm trying to say? So there is natural evaporation when there's sunshine, and then now there's much more evaporation because of what? Global warming. So now these gases they accumulate in the atmosphere very easily. You understand? Global warming increases the what? Evaporation into the atmosphere. Why? They were meant for plants. They were meant for agricultural farmland. But what? Evaporation has taken them what? To the atmosphere. Because they are chemicals, they are liquids, they are gases. They must be diffusion. They must be osmosis. They must be. Tu as compris? Voilà. Any other question? Bon, now, in 5 minutes, let me explain to you climate justice. Since you think that you're only thinking that you have not understood, you have really understood the concept of climate justice. Yes? Hello? That's what you want. Okay, just go some two slides next page. Okay, go back one slide. Okay, let somebody read this out.
Climate justice means trying to ensure that people and the planet are treated fairly in the ways in which we are. Trying to reduce further climate change, that is mitigate and
Mitigation.
adapt
Yes.
to the changes we have caused.
And of course, we have caused, right? Okay. All of that grammar boils down to this one thing: climate justice. I was saying some few minutes ago, who are those who have used fossil fuels the highest to develop their countries? Is it less developed countries or is the developed countries? Good answer. So your guess is as good as mine. Take note. Developed countries have used fossil fuels more to do what? To develop their countries now. Now they are asking less developed countries who have now some are even still discovering more of their fossil fuels. They want to also use that money because guess what? There is this thing in fossil fuels. Do you know how much is passing just this petrol station here? Do you know how much enters there every day from fuel? No, please, we don't want to. It's not our business, right? But what you're saying is that existing there. So it's very attractive. It's a very highly lucrative business. Fossil fuels, right? They sell them in thousands of volumes daily. So now the problem is we have now discovered ours. I mean, the less developed countries have discovered their own fossil fuels, and they want to use it to do what? Even though some want to use it to chop and die with it, but the research of it is they say they want to use it to do what? Develop their countries. Now you're asking them not to use those fossil fuels, not to exploit those fossil fuels because the exploitation naturally will do what? Produce greenhouse gases. So what is climate justice? You have used your own to develop your country. You are asking me, who is still less developed, not to use mine. What are you doing about it? It's as simple as that. Est-ce que les francophones ont compris ce que je dis? N'est-ce pas? Les pays développés ont utilisé leur part des énergies fossiles, n'est-ce pas? Pour développer leur pays. Et puis, comme tout le monde ressent les mêmes conséquences, surtout, take note, guys, less developed countries suffer the consequences of climate change the most. In fact, we are the most vulnerable to the consequences of climate change. I mean, less developed countries. So we have contributed less. The whole of Africa is, of course, they say is Asia, but it's not. Africa is the largest continent. The whole of Africa produces 4% of the global production of greenhouse gases. 4%. So our own contribution is very, in fact, I don't even believe in that 4% because our industrial activity is very, very minimal. Are we together? So it's a fact that 4% could have just very likely been made up, but let's just buy it, right? Let's buy it that we are contributing 4%. So the developed countries who are even actually the most, they are the minority. Remember, they are the minority. The less developed countries are the majority. So few people have used their own fossil fuels to do what? Cause havoc for everybody. But now they want the majority who are still trying to use their own fossil fuels to stop using it. Because if they use it, just imagine the majority of countries using all their fossil fuels. You can imagine the effect in the atmosphere. So that's why they are begging us now, guys, please don't use your own. Don't use your own, please, because all of us will suffer. The problem now is developed countries are angry. Why won't you do something about it? What is the something we're talking about? Finance. Because there are just two solutions. We have to do what? Mitigate by reducing. But now who is reducing? Who has to be reducing? It is you who has to be reducing. You is producing the more. It is you who has to be reducing your production because we are producing just what? 4%. But now you guys are financing the more of what? Mitigation. Meanwhile, those of us who are not yet developed, we are already facing the consequences. So we have to do what? Adapt. We call it what? Climate adaptation finance. So it's a part of what? Climate justice. If you want us to stop using our own fuels, then we want to develop our country. So what the first thing we want to do is that what? First thing, you cannot develop our country for us. Just give us the one that we need to do what? Adapt. Because we're already facing the consequences. We just want to adapt. What do you mean by adapt? We want to be able to have conditions that will enable us to do what? Survive with the change. For example, with the current flux now, we want to be able to have bigger gutters. We want to be able to build gutters. We want to be able to plant trees, and have all the things that are needed to enable us to be able to face, in fact, to live with the reality of climate change. And that money is not even too much money. It's not even too much money. I think it's about 30 billion US dollars. Is it 30 trillion? I'm forgetting that figure. But now that's what the less developed countries are asking. You give us this money, you are the cause. But the consequences are on us the most, right? So give us this finance, let us use it to adapt to climate change. So in essence, climate justice means trying to ensure that people and the planet, right, are treated fairly in the ways in which we are trying to do what? Mitigate and adapt. Fairly, what do we mean? Those of you who are developed countries, right, you have to do what? Reduce your consumption, your production of greenhouse gases. That's the first thing. Second thing, those of us who are facing the consequences of climate change the most, we will have to do what? First of all, adapt to the reality of the change, right? Because we are not producing too much. So we don't have anything to reduce. We don't have much to reduce. But we have to do what? Adapt. So those of you who have the greatest cause of the change, give us the means to do what? Adapt to the change that you have caused. We're talking about the vulnerable communities, the less developed communities, the least economies in the world. They are suffering the consequences the most. Everybody knows that. Meanwhile, they're actually what? The least contributors. That's why the aspect of climate justice came into environmental protection. You understand? That's how that aspect of climate justice came in. That there must be a fair share. You guys cannot use this and develop your country, and then you're asking us not to use it, and you're not doing anything about it. Then it's not fair. That's not fair. That's where the issue of what? Climate justice came in. Because it's now an issue of what? Of a human right. We also have the right to exist like you people. We have the right to live. We are suffering the consequences that you people have caused. But every year you are still asking us not to use our own fossil fuels, because by using it, you also help us to do what? To fight against climate change. That's where the aspect of climate justice came in. Just show them this last definition so that they should be more sure, they should understand more. Please put that definition up there. Yeah. It's as simple as that now. C'est compris, les gars. Hmm? So it's an aspect of human rights. You have to respect our own human rights too. We are not the only humans. They're not the only humans. What about the rural communities who are suffering the consequences? Meanwhile, they were in harmony with their nature. You've gotten into their farmlands, you've taken down their trees, and you've planted hectares of lands of agricultural crops. What is happening to those people? They were using it for their food, they were using it for their medication, they were using it it was a lifestyle. That's what climate justice is all about, right? Giving to the vulnerable communities and countries what they should actually have, what they actually have a right to have, because they have done very little to contribute to climate change, and they are suffering the most consequences. All right, that's just the concept of climate justice. Okay, without which, if there are any more questions, we'll answer. But consider this presentation done with. That's clap for yourselves now.